Welcome to our second video on coming back to church or reopening the church in phase one of the United Methodist Church's reopening. And as we explained in the first video, just to remind you, the first two Sundays of our opening, we will combine the two churches to work out any unforeseen issues that we have in our plan. The first Sunday, we will open St. Mark. That will be on June the 7th at 10:30. And that's because they've been stocking up on their PPE materials and they just have more. On the second Sunday, we will not be at St. Mark. It will be closed, and we will be over here at Community United Methodist Church. That's on June 14th. Again, that'll be at 10:30, and the two congregations will worship together here. For the same reasons as before, we need to make sure that this plan is something that we can really work with. And then the third Sunday, which is June 21st, each church will have its own worship service at its regular time. For Community United Methodist Church, that'll be 9:30, and for St. Mark United Methodist Church, that'll be 11:15. Now, the reason for being a pioneer church is a pioneer is someone who goes before everyone else. They lay out the land, they discover things, they figure out what's safe and what's not safe. And that's what we're going to be doing as a pioneer church here. We're going to be starting to show the other churches in our district and in our conference how to safely open. And above everything in the plan that I'm about to lay out to you, our primary goal was we want you to be able to come to church safely, have a good time while you're here, have a good worship experience, feel the presence of God, and at the same time know that you go home as safe as when you got here and that everyone around you goes home just as safe. There are going to be some that are going to be happy about certain aspects of this. There are some that are going to be unhappy about certain aspects of this. But each step is something that we necessarily need to do just to keep everyone safe in this time of COVID-19. Now, we will continue to video the services, but we won't do it in real time. They will be posted to our Facebook page and to the YouTube channel each Sunday afternoon after worship is ended. The big thing to remember when you're here at the church, when you're coming in from the parking lot, when you enter into the sanctuaries, when you're even sitting in the pew, is 6 foot of distancing will be mandatory for everyone who is not living in the same household. So if there are 4 of you that are living in the same household, you always sit on the same pew, you'll be able to sit on that pew. Now, there has to be 6 feet or an empty pew in front of you and behind you, and we will make sure that the people that are sitting 2 pews ahead or 2 pews behind are also a safe distance from you. Both sanctuaries will allow for a vacant pew, and if you sit on the same pew, one on each end, it's more than 6 foot of distance. And each church will allow for a vacant pew between rows and at least 6 foot in the pew, and will still be able to stay under the 25 maximum number of participants that the United Methodist Church is allowing. Face coverings are required. It's not an option. You have to cover your face to be in worship. They should be put on your face before you ever get out of your vehicle, and you should leave it on until you get back in your vehicle to leave to go home. That's the only way to be able to really do this safely. And as of Friday, the 29th, that will actually become a mandatory thing from our governor in Virginia, is that whenever you're in a public space, you have to wear a mask. First thing you'll notice when you get here is there'll be 2 greeters. The first greeter's job is to make sure that everyone is social distancing and wearing their mask as they come to the front of the building. That person will also help you get into the door. They will either hold the door, or the door will be propped open if the weather permits it. They will direct you how to go in, but they'll also make sure that you're safely distanced from the people who came in front of you. The second greeter will be inside. This will be the person that will help you get to your seat. It'll be the person, if by chance you've left your bulletin at home or you forgot your mask, this will be the person who will be able to help you with those items. Should someone's mask slide down during service or they inadvertently get too close to someone else, the greeter will just come along and just ask you, please put your mask on or please separate. Now, should someone not do that and abide by the greeter's request, then as pastor, I will stop what we're doing and I will reiterate that we have to have 6 foot of distance, as well as everyone has to have their mask on. If someone still refuses to do that, unfortunately, we will have no choice but to end the service. That is mandated. We cannot continue if someone refuses to self-distance and if someone refuses to wear their mask. We will have to end the service. And then privately afterwards, I'll speak with that person and inform them as to why the requirements are what they are. But to come to worship, you're going to have to self-distance and you're going to have to wear a mask. Those things are just not even an option. The other purpose of having the greeters is to help assist with the door, to make sure that we don't have too many people touching doorknobs, to hand you whatever you may have left at home if you've forgotten your bulletin, because there will be no bulletins at the church. The bulletin will be emailed out. It will be put on our Facebook page. It'll be put on our website, and you are expected to print your bulletin out and bring it with you each Sunday. And when you're finished in worship, to take your bulletin home with you. We're not going to we'll have just a very minimum number of bulletins. And they're primarily available for those few folks that we have that do not have electronic means, as well as those few folks that may appear that are a visitor and didn't know that they had to download the bulletin or get the bulletin from some other source. So make sure you print your bulletin out with you. Make sure you bring your bulletin with you. Once inside the church, you have to maintain the 6 foot rule. That's in going to your seats. And the preferred way of seating is we're going to seat from the front to the back. And when it comes time to leave the church, we're going to leave from the back to the front. That way, we'll minimize the number of people that will be passing each other. The offering will be collected by means of plates that are at the rear of the church. On the first 2 Sundays, since we'll be worshiping together, there'll be 2 plates there. One will be marked for Community United Methodist Church, and one will be marked for St. Mark United Methodist Church. You will just simply place your envelope into which either one is the proper plate for it to be deposited. And the money counters that we will have, they will separate it out, make sure each church gets the money that is directed for them. But they're also going to be doing this in a safe manner too. They're going to be wearing gloves, they're going to be wearing a mask, and we're going to have some disinfectant, which is there for them, just to make sure the plates are clean and all that before and after they touch them. For this phase of worship, we will purchase the sealed prepared juice and chip cups. Anyone who handles them will put gloves on just before handling them and promptly remove them after dispersal. For phase 1 only, the liturgy of communion will be done at the church. The people will be given the prepared sacraments and they will take them with them to consume at home. This is done to keep you in your mask while you're there. We don't want you to take your mask down to take the chip or to take the juice. And also because we don't want to leave contaminated items such as cups or paper or things like that at the church. And also there are some people who those things can be a little difficult for opening. If you take it home, then a family member lives with you can help you get it open, or you can use a device to help you to open it. Both churches have sufficient hand sanitizers at this time. However, we encourage you to bring your own just to help minimizing the touching of shared containers. I keep hand sanitizer in all my vehicles, and I would recommend you do the same. And just bring a little container in with you and use it frequently as you're there. There will be no handshaking or hugging during phase 1 of worship. Passing of the peace may still be done, but it's only to those who are immediately around you and without touching and with maintaining your distance. You can just get up and say, "Hi, God bless you. Happy to have you with us. Peace be with you." And that person can respond back and also with you, "Good morning," whatever you want. But it has to be done from a distance. There will be no nursery, children's time, or children's church during this time. Sunday school is also suspended during phase 1. For phase 1, no one under the age of 12 may attend. Now, once we move to phase 2, that age will drop to 7. But for phase 1, it's 12. And the reason for that is they have discovered that children that are under 12 don't have a very good concept of the mask. They're constantly pulling it down. But the other thing is, when you're that age, you want to touch everything and touch everyone, and that really destroys the principle of social distancing. I can't tell you how much it hurts to say that at this phase, children cannot come to church. It hurts me deep, but it's something that we have to do for phase 1. There will be no snacks or beverages, and people are encouraged to leave after worship and not to congregate in the open spaces of the building. Even if you're social distancing, the building's just not that big for everyone to stand around, even in a social distance situation, and talk. If you really want to talk to your friends, then we recommend you go outside towards the parking lot, maintain your social distancing, you'll still have your mask on, and feel free to talk. But it cannot be done inside the building. The building's just not big enough. Neither building is that big that we can do that. The sanctuaries will not have any hymnals, Bibles, or envelopes for offerings in any of the pews. Congregational singing is forbidden during phase 1, but music may be played, and sometimes we have a CD with the person on the CD singing. But for the first phase, part of the new bulletin you'll get is it'll have all the liturgy that we're going to use for that day in there. When the time comes that we start to introduce hymns, the music will be in there. If there's words, there are words. There is going to be a phase where we're going to allow people to start to hum along because you don't expel droplets. When we get to that phase, then the words will be in there, and they're going to be familiar hymns that you run, not for you to sing, but so that you can hum along with it. A bulletin will be prepared and emailed out each week. It will also be posted on the Facebook and the church's website pages. Each person will print the bulletin at home and bring it with them and take it with them when they leave. Or just look at the electronic version if you have your phone or a tablet or something there with you. There will be a few bulletins printed at the church 4 days before worship and placed in a plastic sealed bag for those without any means to print one or use electronic media. The reason for the 4 days is the experts tell us that after 4 days without a host, the virus dies. So the bulletins will be printed and they will be put in the sealed envelope 4 days in advance of worship so that if by chance they somehow became contaminated, that the virus would be dead before you would get it. And one of those greeters that I talked about earlier, if you do forget your bulletin or if you don't have electronic means or you don't have a way of printing it, that greeter will hand you a plastic bag. He'll have gloves on. He'll hand you the plastic bag with the bulletin in it. And then when you leave, you'll take the plastic bag and the bulletin with you. Nothing gets left in the sanctuary. Baptisms will be suspended for phase 1. Any member of the church that wakes up and you're just not feeling yourself, you may not have a temperature, but you got a new cough, you got a new sneeze, you're just really feeling bad, don't come. Stay home. Watch the video after the service. The churches will be cleaned before each service and after each service, and we have a handbook that is in each office that will assist the cleaning staff in knowing specifically how to do this. Again, keep in mind, the virus only lasts 4 days outside of a host, so they will be cleaning 4 days after the service, but within 1 day of us having service. So, and we will be using disinfect as well. You'll notice the smell of hand sanitizer and disinfect when you're in the building, folks. It's just going to be a matter of life for a while. Signs are posted on the front and the rear doors stating no one with a fever or symptoms of COVID-19 or known exposure to COVID-19 in the prior 14 days is allowed in. You just simply cannot come. It's best to self-isolate at home and just see how things work out for you. Signs will be posted at the front and rear doors stating no children under the age of 12 during stage 1 or Pioneer Church stage. And that drops again to age 7 at stage 2. When parking your vehicle, make sure that you leave some space between you and the vehicle next to you. Again, be sure to put your mask on before you leave your vehicle, and don't take your mask off until you get back to your vehicle. And weekly, each person will complete a health acknowledgement form. Now, this is going to really be the big challenge here, folks. I'm not going to tell you it's not going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. And you have to submit it to me and me only. And the reason it has to come to me as the pastor only is because there's some confidentiality that I have in any information that comes to me. And if you've been tested for the virus, or if you've been exposed to the virus, you may not want everyone to know. You tell me, I have to keep it to myself. Now, if something were to happen that through a contact exposure at the church, someone received the virus, then of course we do have to notify the health department. I would notify the district superintendent and the bishop, but that would be a very rare type of thing. Once you notify me, and this is your registration for church, once you notify me, I will give you the okay and put you on a list saying you've completed your health acknowledgement form and you're good to come to church, or I'll tell you, maybe I'll hold off a week or two before you come, and we'll just deal with that as we come to it. How do you get the health acknowledgement form? It's already on our Facebook page. I sent that out this week. It's on our web page. And you can even go to the Virginia conference page in the website that I sent out with a copy of this full plan this week, and you can download it from there. Eventually, I am told that when you fill it out online through the conference, you will be able to submit it, and they will actually forward it to me electronically. So you and I won't have to have a little bit of a conversation. Now, there's one other way, and I'm going to tell you, for the first week and second week of worship, this is the way I want us to do it. Call me. Call me. I will have stacks of the forms and I will fill the form out for you. We will go over the information and I will keep those forms safe. But for the first couple of weeks, I don't want you to worry about getting a form from any of these other means. If you want to come to church on June the 7th, call me next week. If you want to come to church on June the 14th, call me during that week. Call me at least the day before worship so we can get this complied with. But call me and we're going to do it. Since we're small churches and I know everybody's not ready to come at first, it's a workload that we can handle. And my number's everywhere. If you need it, if you got my email and don't have my phone number, then just email me and I'll call you. But just get up with me and we'll do it. And the third video is going to talk specifically about that health acknowledgement form and what the information found on it is. If by chance a visitor would show up for the services, at least as long as they come 15 minutes before the service, then we will make every attempt to be able to comply with getting them a health form, getting them to fill it out, and let me talk to them before. If they come quicker than that and it's just not feasible for me to talk to them, then unfortunately we have no choice but to turn them away. If you come to church without doing the health acknowledgement form, and I have not got the time to talk, we have no choice but to tell you, I'm sorry you cannot come this week. And we'll let you know how to be better at getting that form in future weeks. Some things that would disqualify you from attending service: if you've had any international travel, 14 days, period. 2 or more symptoms of COVID-19, with the exception if you have a temperature of 100.4, that alone is a disqualifier and you should stay home. But if you have 2 or more of the other symptoms, then you could be denied access to worship. If you fail to complete the health acknowledgement form procedure, there's just no time for me to be involved with before service of getting a whole bunch of people done. We're just going to have no choice but deny you worship that day. I know the first couple of weeks are going to be rough. That's why we're doing it with one church each week. We're going to give ourselves flexibility and make sure that we don't overload ourselves. And we're going to have as much fun with this as we can. And the important thing is to do this in a safe manner. We want, even by the time we're done with this, I want even people who maybe have some underlying health conditions that wouldn't normally want to go out, I want them to feel like they could safely come and worship in their church. I kind of lay out, I think this plan is much more safer to come to church than it is to go to a grocery store or a retail store. It's going to be on about the same level as going to your doctor's office. I've been to 2 doctors since then. The only difference is we want you to take your temperature before you leave home. We don't want to take it once you get here because that would cause us to violate the 6-foot rule. Take your temperature before you leave home. Don't have a temperature? We accept your word on that. You're good to go. But we're going to do this thing. We're going to get back to worshiping. And we're going to be a leader in the Elizabeth River District, and we're going to be a leader in the United Methodist Church in Virginia by showing that it can be done cautiously, safely, and we can still worship God and Jesus Christ. And I look forward to seeing you face to face in person again soon.